Yeah. All right, guys, so your last test, other than your final, is going to be on the parts of a frog and what they do. We've got two pictures here. Both of the pictures will show up on the test. You need to be able to label them, and you need to know what the parts do. So, that being said, let's look at the parts. We talked about most of these yesterday. Let's start with the heart right here in the middle. Now, if you look at that diagram, they divided the heart into the chambers in the diagram. The heart has the heart of a frog. The heart of an amphibian in general has 3 chambers in it. The top chambers are called what? Atria. Atrium is the singular of that. And then the bottom chamber, which is much bigger and much thicker right in here, that's called the ventricle. Now, amphibian hearts have 3 chambers. What about human hearts?
4.
Ours have 4. Ours have 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. They have 2 on the top and only 1 on the bottom. That's the heart. The heart is flanked on either side by these guys. And those are the lungs. Now, in a preserved frog, they're going to look sort of grayish, and they're going to look almost like a little helium balloon that has all the helium that's come out of it. Now, in reality, they wouldn't be gray. Taking a live frog, they'd be real reddish, right? Because what are they covered in?
What?
Blood vessels. But this frog's been dead for a while that we're going to be dissecting. They're small, kind of grayish, but they look almost like I said, a helium balloon that's been deflated. A lid. Now, really, to see the heart in the lungs, you're going to have to move something out of the way. It's going to be on top of it. And you see the underside of that organ right in here. It's the liver. When you cut open the frog, the first thing you're probably going to see is the liver. It's huge. Covers up the whole upper chest. Let's think about what the liver does. We talked about this yesterday. What does the liver do? Somebody wrote something down. Yeah, it does several things. First of all, let's think about it as a filter. It filters toxins out of your blood. It's one of its important roles. It also makes this stuff that's kind of gross called bile. The bile that it makes eventually ends up in the small intestine. And as Childers has said, it helps you to digest fats. It should break down fats. And another thing it does is it makes this sugar called glycogen, which helps to control your blood sugar levels. So 3 important things. Filtering the blood of toxins, making bile to help you digest fat, and also helping you to control blood sugar. And while we're here, since we talked about the heart and the lungs already, the lungs' job is to do what? Exchange, bring oxygen into the blood, and send what out of the blood? CO2. Your heart, obviously, is your pump. It's pumping your blood. It's circulating your blood. Let's go a little bit further. Right on the underside of the liver, you're going to have to kind of flip the liver up to see this. There's a little green sac-like structure right on the bottom. It's going to be pretty small. That's the gallbladder. The gallbladder doesn't really make anything. You actually can live without it, but it's a storage container for what? It's a storage container for bile, and it slowly releases the bile from the liver into what? The small intestine. But it can be taken out, and the intestine can be hooked straight up to the liver if need be. It's a storage container for bile. Over here. And let me erase a little bit of this marking so we can see it better. Right in here, underneath the liver, is the stomach. Sort of shaped like a fanny pack. Said that yesterday. Is your stomach. It's right in that same area. It's usually going to be, usually going to be under. That's the stomach. Now the stomach receives food from where? Where's the food coming from that gets to the stomach? Before that, the esophagus, right? Your throat, your digestive tube bleeding down from the throat. That's the esophagus. It leads into the stomach. What's the main thing that happens in the stomach? That's where protein digestion starts. Most digestion does not happen in the stomach. Most of it happens in the small intestine. The stomach is where it starts, though, especially the protein digestion. It's really acidic in there. And that's all we'll say about the stomach for right now. The stomach leads to this twisty organ right in here, and that's your small intestine. Small intestine is really, really important because it's where almost all digestion happens, and it's where what other really important thing happens. The nutrients get what? Absorbed into the blood. It's where absorption of nutrients happens.
Wait, do they have large intestines?
Yeah, they do. That's where we're going next. Right in here, just below the small intestine, there's the large intestine. And we talked about the large intestine a little bit yesterday. What's another name for the large intestine? Anybody know another name for the large intestine? Colon. Sometimes it's called the colon. Colon of the large intestine. Its job is, we said, to reabsorb what? Poop water. Okay? Takes the water out of the waste, puts that water back to where? Back to your blood so you don't dehydrate. And that's an important thing. Keeps you from dehydrating. When you have a problem with your large intestine, you can either get diarrhea or you can get the opposite, right? You can get constipated. Either way. All right, now just below the large intestine, sort of at the end of it, is this little pouch down here.
It's like all four.
It's called the cloaca. And make sure you know what the cloaca is. You don't have a cloaca. Humans don't have this. A cloaca is sort of a pouch where the large intestine sends things, where the bladder sends things, and where the sperm tubes, the sperm ducts, or the oviducts send things. And then it sends stuff where? Out. So it's a container. It's sort of the out way for feces, for urine, for sperm, and for eggs. You don't have that. Okay? You have more than one way to get those things out. In a frog, they all come out the same way. All right, moving on back up a little bit. Just underneath the stomach, right in here, you have the pancreas. Pancreas is going to be sort of tannish, maybe brown in your frog. And pancreas is sort of an underrated organ. Most people don't know much about it, but it does a lot of cool stuff. One, it makes hormones that help you control what? Your blood sugar level. This is where insulin is made. And a lot of people don't know this either. The pancreas makes almost all the enzymes that help you to do what? Digest your food. It can make your digestive enzymes. You guys need to get it together. And make your digestive enzymes. One other thing we'll mention here, and it's not pictured on this diagram, but sitting somewhere right in here, we talked about this yesterday too, is your spleen. It's going to look like a little reddish purple ball. And its job is to filter what?
Dead red blood cells out.
Filters dead red blood cells out of your blood. Those are most of the things you ought to be able to label on this diagram. They do have labeled up here, which I didn't mention. Right in that area is your esophagus. And that's the tube that leads from the mouth into the stomach. And one thing I'll mention, when you eat food and you swallow, does it just fall down into your stomach?
Yeah.
No. It gets pushed. Your esophagus is like this muscular tube. And to get the food from your mouth to your stomach, what does that muscular tube do? It does like a worm, right? It does that. And that process in which it does that is called peristalsis. Not very long, but it's just essentially like a wave of muscle contractions. And it pushes the food down the tube. You do it too. That process of muscular contractions pushes food from your mouth all the way to out on the other end. Okay? It's important for moving food through the digestive system. All right, so that's That's kind of the first stuff we're going to be looking at. And then, in addition to that, we're going to have this diagram up on the test as well. And this is looking at the reproductive and the urinary kinds of organs. To see what we're looking at here, you're going to have to take most of the stuff we saw on the last slide out of the frog first. Because where's this stuff located? It's located along their back. So it's going to be just around their backbone. All this stuff is going to be very deep inside the frog. So we're going to cut it from the belly side. You're going to have to remove all that stuff on the belly side, and this is going to be underneath that. If you have a female frog,
Well, each of us have different.
yeah, it's random. You don't know what you'll get. Hold on. These structures right here in black, those are the ovaries. Folks, some of your frogs, those ovaries will have made tons of eggs, and your whole frog belly will be full of eggs. If that's the case, you'll have to remove those before you can really do anything else. Some may have them, some may not. Let's finish. The ovaries, what do? They make the eggs. They make the egg cells. The ovaries are connected via these little curly-Q tubes called oviducts to what?
Transport the eggs to.
What are the oviducts connected to? The cloaca. And they carry the eggs from the ovary to the cloaca so they can get out. You'll also see around the ovaries, and you'll really see these spread out throughout the whole body. It almost looks like a crazy hairdo coming out the top of them. And usually these things that you're going to see like doing that are going to be yellow. They're going to look like little yellow fingers. If you see things that look like little yellow fingers inside your frog, what are you looking at? You're looking at fat. Sometimes they're just called fat bodies, but it's pieces of fat. It's there for energy storage. Something that's going to be very hard for you to see, because you're probably going to cut it as you're dissecting your frog. Down here there's a bladder, the urinary bladder, which holds the urine before it comes out. But something you will be able to find, and this is going to be on either side of the backbone, just beside the ovary. It's going to look like two little long beans, long flat beans. Those are your kidneys. What do your kidneys do?
They take toxins out.
They filter toxins out of the blood, and they make urine. Filter toxins out of the blood, make urine. There's some other things they do too. But for right now, filtering toxins, making urine. That's what you need to know. Notice in this diagram down here is the cloaca. So you can see how the oviducts lead to the cloaca. You can see how the bladder is connected up to the cloaca. It's the way out. So this is the female over here on the right. The male over on the left. In the male, you got two testes. What do the testes do? They make the sperm. Notice that, like the ovaries, they have kind of coming out the top these little fat bodies. Those are fat bodies coming out the top. Leading from the testes down to the cloaca are what are called the sperm ducts. They carry the sperm from the testes down to the cloaca and eventually out. And then usually just underneath the testes are the two kidneys. And again, they're going to look like little flattened beans, essentially. Again, down here, you've got the bladder, and you got the cloaca. And that's essentially it. So the test you're going to have on Monday, be labeling the diagrams, and then there'll be some questions about what the parts do. If you know what I just talked about, you'll make 100 on the test. Be able to label the diagrams, tell me what each part does.
If frogs don't have penises and stuff, how does Miss Piggy determine the frog?
They didn't. They didn't. All right, let me get this turned off, and we will go from there. Just hold it.
I have a question.
All right.